Hello everyone, it's Corina with the Farm Collaborative here. I am going to read another story. Today we're going to read Fairy Houses. It's written and illustrated by Tracy Kane. I love this book because at the end it has some instructions on how to make a fairy house of your very own. And it has instructions on how to make them in every season of the year, even in the winter. This summer, my parents decided we should leave the city and spend a week in a small island off the coast of Maine. They said there was something special for me on the island, something I would really like, but they wouldn't tell me what it was until we got there. As soon as we got off the boat, I tried to guess. Is it the lighthouse? Those silly sandpipers on the beach? The seals? Our cottage? Later, when we went for a walk in the woods by our cottage, I discovered the surprise my parents had been keeping. Fairy houses. People had built small houses for fairies to live in. Over here it says, "You may build houses small and hidden for the fairies, but please do not use living or artificial materials." I asked if I could build a fairy house. My dad said yes, as long as I followed the rules of the woods. I scouted out places that would be just right for a fairy house. I chose a hollow at the base of an oak tree and collected some twigs, some leaves, and pieces of bark to build with. I finished the inside with a floor of dried grass and made a roof with fallen leaves. I hoped the fairies would choose my house for a place to live in. The next morning, I couldn't wait to visit the woods again to see if anyone might be sleeping inside my house. When I bent down to look, I heard chirping. Was it a fairy snoring? "Hey, you're not a fairy," I said. "You're a cricket." The cricket hopped off into a bush full of bright red berries. Maybe the fairies would like some to eat, I thought. I gathered a handful of berries from the ground and sprinkled them around my house. The following day, after visiting the lighthouse with my parents, I decided to check on my fairy house. A pair of finches were carrying the last berries away in their beaks. Searching the ground for more berries, I came to a small stream. The sound of the trickling water gave me an idea. I took some stones from my pack that I had found near the lighthouse and arranged them in a circle near my fairy house. Then I filled the circle with water from the stream in case the fairies got thirsty or wanted to take a bath. "Anybody here?" I whispered the next day. At first, the house looked empty. Then I spied someone in the pool. I wanted to get closer to look at the frog as he bathed. Oops, I guess I got too close. As the frog leaped away, I could hear other frogs singing out to him. I started singing myself as I got to work collecting acorns and pine cones. It was time to make some home improvements. When I came back the next afternoon, I saw a squirrel nibbling on the nuts, but no fairies in sight. I just couldn't give up. I still hoped the fairies would visit my house. Maybe it needed a better entrance. In my pack were seashells and feathers my mom and I had found at the beach. I decorated the path leading up to the door. I thought about adding my shiny bracelet to one of the shells, hoping to catch a fairy's attention. But then I remembered the rules of the woods. The next morning, I got up very early when my parents were still asleep and tiptoed out of our cottage and into the woods. This was the day we would be leaving the island, so I had one last chance to visit my fairy house. A fog had rolled in off the ocean, covering the woods like a thick blanket. I could barely see. It was like walking in a cloud. The trees seemed huge and their branches looked like arms reaching out to grab me. Goosebumps started popping out on my arms and legs. Someone was watching me, I was sure. Should I turn around and run? But my fairy house was so close. It was then I heard footsteps and saw a large, dark shape moving toward my fairy house. My heart started thumping. I jumped behind a tree to hide. I caught my breath. It was a deer, licking the salty seashells. I stood perfectly still as she made her way lazily through the woods, then vanished into the mist. Exhausted, I sat down near my fairy house, watching, waiting, and wishing for fairies to appear. The quiet of the woods and the soft mist made me sleepy. My eyelids felt heavy, but I tried not to fall asleep. Before long, the sun started breaking through the mist, and with it came a soft breeze. Kristen, the breeze seemed to whisper in my ear. Kristen, wake up. We can only stay a moment. Struggling to open my eyes, I saw a bright beam of light and a tiny, smiling face. We are the fairies who live in the spirits of all the plants and animals in these woods, a voice said. Of all the houses here, the animals have chosen yours to visit. You have treated the woods with care and respect. Look quickly, Kristen, for this is the moment of magic, when the fairies will show themselves as a way of thanking you. As the late morning sun started breaking through the mist, light beams illuminated the fairies. They sparkled like jewels. They became so bright, I had to close my eyes. When I opened my eyes, the fairies had changed into beautiful monarch butterflies. Butterflies fluttered around me like a great orange cloud, following me to the edge of the woods where the sun shone brightly. I watched them dancing toward the light, higher and higher. Squinting into the warm golden day, I smiled and waved as the last butterfly disappeared into the sky. So that's the end of the story, but there's more to the book. So down here, it says, shh, over here. Turn this page to see some tips for building your own fairy house. So here we have a page that kind of gives us some tips on it. It says, how to get started with your fairy house. Fairy houses can be created in many different places. Look for building spots in parks, fields, woods, beaches, and your own yard. Try to find a place away from roads or busy pathways. The base of a tree or the side of a rock would be just right. Sometimes you can find a place in low branches of a tree or bush. Close to the ground is best. You should only use natural materials to build the house. Dry grasses, pebbles, sticks, shells, feathers, seaweed, pine cones, and nuts are just some of the materials you can use. Be careful not to use or disturb any of nature's materials that are still living, such as flowers, ferns, mosses, or lichen. Fairies do not like to disturb anything that is growing. Many fairy houses look so natural, they are almost hidden. You can have fun building them any time of the year. So this is one in the spring. And then here is one in the summer. I like this one because it looks like it was on the beach. And then the fall one, or the autumn one, is beautiful too because there's so many things that fall off naturally in the fall that you can use on your fairy house. And you can even make one in the winter. So you can find a good spot that's already covered in some snow. Look, in here they made a little snowman, a mini snowman. And here's another example of a beautiful one. So this book is all about fairy houses and building your own. So now you can go out and you can build a fairy house of your own.